To eastern and southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News Weekend Edition.
Good evening, I'm Amelia Lee. First responders are investigating a possible drowning at Lake Cumberland that happened today. In a Facebook post, the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Law Enforcement says it happened in the area of the South Fork of the Cumberland River on Lake Cumberland. They advise people to use caution if going through that area tonight. In a post on Facebook, Lake Cumberland says there will be an ideal speed zone on the South Fork of the Cumberland River until further notice. The federal FBI opened an online survey in regards to the healthcare fraud investigation of Addiction Recovery Care. ARC is a substance abuse treatment provider headquartered in Louisa, Kentucky. In a statement, ARC says in part, quote, "We have recently learned that there is a federal investigation into ARC. We are confident in our program and the services we offer. We and our legal counsel are cooperating fully in the investigation," end quote. The Veep stakes are on as the nation waits to learn who will join Kamala Harris on the Democratic ticket. Washington correspondent Stetson Miller has your week ahead from Washington.
Vice President Kamala Harris is set to pick her running mate by Tuesday. In the running are Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, along with Senator Mark Kelly and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. After the announcement, Harris and her VP pick will hit 7 states in 7 days, starting with Philadelphia. Tuesday, the National Transportation Safety Board will hold an investigative hearing into the Alaska Airlines door plug incident. Boeing 737s are facing scrutiny 7 months after a door plug blew out mid-flight. The hearing will be open to the public. And that's your look ahead from Washington. I'm Stetson Miller.
Vice President Kamala Harris is meeting today with top contenders to be her running mate, according to multiple sources familiar with the plans. It comes as a new CBS poll shows she has a 1-point edge nationally and is tied with former President Donald Trump across the collective battleground states. Natalie Brand reports from Washington, D.C.
New CBS News polling shows the percentage of Democrats who say they'll definitely vote has now risen to its highest point this year, with Vice President Kamala Harris improving enthusiasm among black voters and younger voters, data points that have tightened the race.
I'm seeing the coalitions building. I'm seeing that people from all backgrounds are interested in her.
The new poll shows Harris is leading on the question of cognitive health and among women voters, while former President Trump still maintains a sizable lead with voters who say they'll be financially better off with him and that his policies will decrease border crossings.
The economy, the border, we've got bigger issues to worry about, and I think that's what he's focusing on.
CBS News has confirmed Harris' scheduled meeting Sunday with some of the top candidates for the VP position, including Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
I think that there are people out there who have been Republicans but are not in favor of Trump and would look for an alternative, and I think by making a good choice there, I think that could help those people to come over and vote for Kamala Harris.
Harris is expected to name her running mate by Tuesday, ahead of a 7-state battleground tour. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Harris's 1-point edge nationally in the CBS poll actually stands in stark contrast to President Biden's numbers. He was down 5 points nationally when he exited the race. Well, picking a running mate, it's not just about picking who you get along with the best, although getting along certainly helps. Political science experts say campaign ad advisors typically try to find someone who can tap into a different demographic. That's either, it could be racial, gender-based, or geography. But all candidates will also go through a rigorous vetting process.
You know that when you get Trump and Harris and Biden, these kind of fighters in a race, anything that could be dug up is going to be dug up. You want to dig it up first. If I can be blunt, I think Trump picked J.D. Vance, who again is a very conservative, Caucasian, Ivy educated, Midwestern to East Coast male, although he has some roots here, because he thought he was going to have an easy way.
Dr. Wilfred Riley of Kentucky State University says the vetting process includes digging up any potential points of controversy, including any prior legal issues, allegations of misconduct, or viewpoints that would be damaging to a campaign run.
The sun is finally back, and what a way for it to come back. We had temperatures in the mid to high 80s today, and just a beautiful day overall. Speaking of beautiful days, take a look at this viewer photo sent in by Renee Caldwell. This is yesterday in Leslie County, and this is right after it rained. As you can see, some of the lower clouds in the valley, some of the humidity rising up that caused that fog last night. But just a beautiful photo with that sunset. Thank you again, Renee, for sending that in. And high temperatures today we saw a few 90s, 90 in Somerset, 89 in Harlan, 91 in Irvine. So not really getting to that mark just yet, but that's going to change tomorrow. Current temperatures, though, just starting to drop into the low 70s across eastern Kentucky. In our Virginia counties, Wise and Clintwood both sitting at 68 and 66. Looking at our pinpoint Dopplers, you can see clear out there, but we do have a lot of that feedback that comes back during the summer. Well, over the next couple hours, weather's going to change a little bit. We're going to see temperatures drop into the mid 60s, but then rise back up into the 80s by 12 p.m. And then we could even see 90 by around the 3 p.m. hour. Amelia?
Thank you, Drake. Faith Assembly of God, a church in Laurel County, held an event today to wrap up the summer. WYMT's Caroline Mueller tells us how they helped hundreds of kids get ready to go back to school.
It did not take long for a line of hundreds to form at the church's Back to School Bash. At the front of the line were 1,000 backpacks and school supplies for kids to choose from, all for free.
I mean, it's no secret there's a lot of families that are struggling. There's a lot of, the economic times are a little tough for some people. But our desire is to be able to help them. And by giving them school supplies, backpack, as well as some food inside of those backpacks, it only helps the families that are maybe struggling a little bit.
The church's pastor, Rodney Goodlett, says they did it out of love for the London community.
We believe that, the church should be outside the four walls, of the building, as they would say. And so we just desire just to be able to bless people and to be present in our community.
Michaela Faulkner and Alana Jesse both got supplies, and they say they are thankful.
It feels like really kind of them because they didn't have to do it and they done it by choice.
God blessed them to do it.
Kayla Carson was a volunteer. She's also a teacher, and it says she has seen firsthand how impactful starting the year on the right foot is.
Coming in confident, that's half the battle, and knowing that they're loved, not just at school, but by our church and our community. That's what we really want to push for right now.
Volunteers spent their Friday night preparing the backpacks. Goodlett says it was the youth who showed up to do their part.
So just trying to teach them at a young age for them to be the hands and feet of Jesus and serve people and love people. And so it's been great. I love it. I love this stuff. This is my jam right here.
He says all leftover backpacks and supplies will go to Family Resource Youth Service Centers for schools in the area. In London, Caroline Mueller, WYMT Mountain News.
Kids came for the supplies and they stayed for all the other free fun, including inflatables, food, treats, and even a petting zoo. Well, community members in Barberville are fighting to keep their church. Wayman Chapel could be torn down due to a project to expand the road it sits on. However, longtime member Michelle Johnson says they were not notified about the project until a few months ago. Sharon White says her roots run deep in Wayman Chapel, adding she does not want to see it torn down.
Well, I can see my father where he's worked so hard. My father was a hard-working man, and everybody knew him. His name, they called him Cap Hughes. And it's just a hurtful thing to think that anybody thinks that they can come in and tear down a pillar of our community. It's just unreal.
White says they are not opposed to the project, adding they can even take part of their driveway. She says they just want the church to stay in the Rosenland community. Early this morning, people in Hazard celebrated the first north to east yard sale extravaganza. Despite the rain ending the event early on Saturday, Sunday offered the perfect weather for people to get out and go shopping for some good deals. Not only did people get the chance to find good deals, they also got the opportunity to form connections with people in their community. With dozens of people on the road throughout Hazard, this is one of the biggest yard sales in the area.
It's definitely a thing in Hazard and Appalachia itself where people do this thing and they're like, we're just going to take it to the next level. It's got to be a little bit more than that, you know? Like even the soccer team had their yard sale and then they also did like hot dog lunches during it. So it's just really fun.
During the yard sale, vendors were also out on the streets selling food to hungry thrifters throughout the day. Coming up at 11, FEMA Disaster Relief Centers has updates after Memorial Day weekend storms.
Well, after a week of consistent rain, we have flipped the script to a week full of sun. I'll have more details in your First Alert forecast. Stay with us.